calm down. You better now, man.
It was it was unusual. Yeah,
No.
it's the first time this happened. Actually, I thought about it for a minute now, and I thought maybe John had already made some judgments because the story itself was kind of.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe John got the wrong impression. But I'm glad you called.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's unfortunate at the time, funny now that we look back at it. But yeah, hopefully the day ends better for you.
It's already better. It's already better.
All right, good. Yeah, there's just a few things I want to get through today. This is going to be a pretty casual conversation, but I will be asking you a few technical questions towards the end. But really, I just want to learn a little bit more about your background. We'll go through some logistical questions as well, just to make sure this is going to make sense for you. And then I'll walk you through the hiring process. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So I do have the resume that you used to apply to the production network engineer position. I also have your LinkedIn pulled up here. So just wanted to get a sense, like, in your own words, if you can give me just a quick 5-minute overview of the last few roles that you've had. Let's go back to your time. Let's see here. Looks like you had some short stints. Let's talk a little bit about your last role at Cisco, and then just bring me up to current.
Sounds good. How about I just give you my standard? Tell me about yourself.
Perfect.
It's only 2 minutes.
That sounds great. Awesome.
So I started in technology after I finished my master's program from the University of Colorado at Boulder, and I was hired by my professor, who happened to be a senior engineer at level 3. So I started as an intern for 6 months. For 6 months, I was helping him with trivial tasks, network diagrams, managing inventory. Then I was offered a full-time position. I became a support person, and then I became their dedicated support person for their top 3 customers, Google, Yahoo, and MSN. And from there, I went to the architecture team, and that's the team that's responsible for the design of the backbone, rollout of services to different cities across the country. As you know, Level 3 is the largest ISP worldwide. So I worked in the architecture team for some time, and my experience at Level 3 was a rich experience. I learned a lot in terms of routing and switching, but then I wanted to learn more about the hardware, and this is usually vendor proprietary information. So you may be the best network engineer out there, but you're not going to have that knowledge unless you work for the vendors. For that reason, I moved to Cisco, and I worked in their LAN switching backbone team, and then I moved to the wireless backbone team, and these are escalation teams. And then I moved to the high-touch team. The high-touch team is a support organization, and it works with major accounts, people who pay 6-7 times as much as the average customer, and for that they have very strict SLAs. Issues had to be resolved within 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours. Now Cisco ends up paying a huge penalty to the customer. So I worked in various teams at Cisco. Last was the high-touch team, and these are people like Facebook, Verizon. So then I started doing contracting work, where I work with a company. Let's say a company wants to. I started doing 2 things. At night, I do training. So I started 6 years ago. I started online training classes. I train people towards their Cisco certifications, CCNA, CCNP, CCIE. But during the day, I build. So the kind of projects I do during the day are either a large company that wants to do some network expansion, like Comcast, DirecTV, Charter. A company, an ISP, they want to roll out a new service, or they want to install a new product, then I help with that. Or maybe a company that has an old data center based on the Cisco 6500, 3750, and they want to move to the new platforms, the Nexus platforms. So I go in, I make platform recommendations, get the equipment design, deployment, configuration, the network goes live, I move on to the next client. So the past couple of years has been more on the on the architecture design side, architecture and design implementation. So it's usually building something new.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Very good. So, in your time doing all those things, have you done any automation work at all as well?
I have done automation extensively at Amazon, because Amazon, they kind of and maybe Google is the same thing. I imagine Facebook would be the same too. I imagine these companies are maybe 5-6 years ahead of the curve when it comes to automation. Because when I joined Amazon, they hired me based on my network skills, OSPF, BGP, routing protocols. But when I joined, I realized that, yes, they want you to have that knowledge, but all the work is done via automation. If you want to install a line card, there is a Python script for that. If you want to install a switch, there is a Python script that will do the job. If you want to build a whole data center consisting of maybe 9 or 6 devices, there is a script also to build the entire data center for you. So there's a Python script for everything. Sometimes the script may not be exactly what you're trying to accomplish, which means you have to maybe tweak the script a little bit before you start running the script. So
Right.
I worked extensively with Python script at Amazon.
Okay.
And then back in the day, I also wrote scripts. So when I was at level 3, I wrote like Tickle scripts, Perl scripts, because sometimes when I was in the architecture team, we come to the office in the morning, and the operations team, the NOC, they would tell us that something happened, the router was down, let's say 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And when we asked for outputs, they didn't capture all the information. And it's after the fact, the issue is no longer there, so troubleshooting wasn't easy. So we started writing scripts using Tickle and Perl, where the script will log into the router on 30-minute intervals, capture certain outputs, and the script will do this constantly. That way, when we come to the office in the morning, if we hear about any device which is downside in the morning, we don't have to rely on information provided by operations. We can just go and see what outputs we have from these scripts.
Okay. Very good. And have you kept up with your Python scripting skills since you left Amazon?
I'm getting better every day. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, some people started doing Python scripts 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, I was familiar with scripting, and I did Tickle, Perl. So when I joined Amazon, I had to learn Python, and I was able to learn quickly because I was reading Python. I had some friends help me with some concepts, but at the same time, I was using that knowledge on the job every day, applying that knowledge real time. So that helped me learn Python at a faster rate than I normally learn. So I usually learn fast, but with Python, because I was in that environment where I'm learning, but at the same time, 9 to 5, I'm working with these scripts, I was able to learn quickly, and I want to improve on Python. So, for example, right now, it's actually somewhere here. Usually the book is really close to me. Maybe it's in my bedroom. But I have a Python book with me these days that I'm going over. So I'm trying to get better at Python every day.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Great. Thank you for sharing that with me. I wanted to get into some of the logistical questions, as I mentioned. Just want to verify a few bits of information as well. So it looks like you're currently in Denver, Colorado. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the position that you've applied for is in Sunnyvale, California. So just want to verify that you're open to relocation.
I am. I lived in Santa Clara when I was at Cisco, and so I'm familiar with Sunnyvale. And I remembered, I think the position was in Sunnyvale is the Google headquarters, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
Got it.
Great. So also there might be also a number of different roles that you could potentially be a good fit for, or even a better fit for. So is your heart set on this position, or are you open to potentially exploring other roles that might be a better fit?
So if that's a great question, because the position. So I love Google as a company, and I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. If you're interested, you can ask me later on. But I love Google, and I want to increase my chances. So if you send me, let's say, to an on-site interview where they're looking for networking skills and maybe Python skills, then maybe the hiring team will think I'm expert on networking, not expert on scripting.
Yeah.
Which is still good, but it's not like I realize in my experience. Usually, companies are looking for the best candidate when they're hiring. So I think my chances will be higher if you put me, at least maybe initially, connect me with a team that is looking for a networking expert. That way I go to an interview. The whole interview is going to be around networking. And based on experience, I know, like, usually I'm able to do well, and I'm able to kind of share the projects I worked on and how I can add value. I'm able to get the message to hiring managers very quickly. It's kind of, everything will be under my control, kind of in my domain. So,
I would agree with that. I definitely want to set you up for success, right? Given that, I know that you've had some extensive experience in other coding languages also, and have done some scripting. I just want to make sure that we're exploring all the options, and place you in a situation where you would do your very best rather than trying to pigeonhole you to a specific role, right? So,
for example, to give you to maybe explain my point better. For example, on my resume, you will see OSPF, you will see BGP. These are things that I teach people at night, and my students go and take the Cisco exams, and it's very common that someone in my class will get 1,000 out of 1,000 on the Cisco exam, because we don't leave any stone unturned. On Cisco exams, this is not common, but in my classes, it's very common that a student gets the full score, because we make sure we go into the details. So I know if I go into a strictly networking interview, I'll do exceptionally well.
Okay.
If I go into a coding interview, I'm still able to answer questions. I'm still able to do well. I just can't guarantee that I'll be the best person interviewing, because maybe the other person had 15, 20 years of coding experience.
Yeah, totally. So before I submit you for any other roles, I'll send you the job description for you to just review. If you're interested, let me know, and we'll kind of partner on this, right? And you just kind of help me help you to guide you to the most appropriate role.
We have a deal.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So let's go through a few more of these logistical questions. Do you happen to know anybody that works at Google who can serve as a reference for you? And it's okay if you don't.
I don't. Although I have a lot of relationships in the industry. Usually, if you ask me what made me successful the past couple of years, I would say it's probably relationships before anything else. But Google, for some reason, maybe Google is its own small community, because I haven't met anyone from Google before.
Interesting.
There's that mystery,
Yeah. Hopefully we can change that. Great. So next question. Are you currently interviewing at any other companies?
Yes. I interviewed, and I'm still interviewing, and I received offers. But usually I don't jump on the first project that comes my way. I try to find something that I enjoy doing, especially that I have my night classes and they're generating income. Usually between projects, I'm not in a rush to jump on the next one.
Sure. Okay.
But I'm getting interviews more than my schedule allows sometimes.
All right. Well, that's a good problem to have. Just let me know if you're reaching a point where you're about to receive an offer from a company you're really interested in, we'll do our very best to expedite the process on our end. But just to give you an idea, the fastest I've seen it go is about 6 weeks. Also seen it take as long as several months, but just keep me posted so we can kind of work together and try to figure out the fastest possible route, right? To
Sounds good.
Make sure you make it through the entire process.
Sounds good.
Do you have any other timing pressures or anything like that that might prevent you from accepting an interview in the next several weeks?
Usually not, and I'm able to make myself available. If I'm interested in a company, I'm able to make myself available at a day or two notice.
Okay, perfect. And I also wanted to just verify the years of industry experience that you have. And it looks like your LinkedIn dates back to 2005. Is that correct? So approximately 14, 15 years?
I would say 15, 16.
Okay.
I think I started at level 3, 2003. Usually when it comes to dates, I'm not the best at remembering dates and when things happened exactly. But I think my start at level 3,
okay.
I think, I want to say it was 2003.
Okay, perfect. And would you say your preferred coding language is Python?
Pickle, Perl, I had experience with. Python is preferred because Python is the future for network engineers. Like, for example, today, I think 5 years from today, every network engineer will be using Python at some level on the job.
Yeah.
So Python is definitely the future. And I consider my experience with Amazon was helpful because it kind of gave me that head start, and I had to start on Python maybe a bit earlier. Mm-hmm. But Python is the future, and I like to learn, so I'm continually learning every day. Yeah. And I used to learn networking concepts, networking technologies, new products, platforms, how they integrate, how they work together. But these days, or the past couple of months, I'm also incorporating Python in my learning. So I'm trying to get the best of both worlds.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So let's jump into the knowledge-based questions. It's a series of about 8 questions. Some of these are meant to stretch your knowledge a little bit. So if you don't know the answer, just go ahead and say pass, and we'll move on to the next one. But these are fairly straightforward. There's no trick questions at all, okay?
Perfect.
All right. So the first question is, can you describe the TCP three-way handshake?
Sure. So in TCP, usually before communicating, unlike UDP, TCP is connection-oriented. So before any communication between a client and a server, a three-way handshake has to happen. It's a SYN, ACK, and an ACK. So it's 3 messages. And these are empty TCP headers. They have no information at the application level. Empty TCP headers encapsulated over IP, over Ethernet, and the flag field of the first message will be set to SYN, indicating that this is the SYN message. The SYN ACK will be the same, except the flag will indicate this is the SYN ACK, and then the ACK message will also be reflected in the flag that this is the ACK. So it's SYN, ACK, ACK. It's 3 messages to establish the connection, agree on port numbers before the flow happens.
Perfect. And just a follow-up question to that, can you describe the TCP connection teardown?
It's a 4-step process, and because the concept is the way, let's say you and I are communicating via TCP. I send you a finish. When I send you a finish, I'm indicating to you that I'm done sending my information, but that doesn't mean you finish sending your information. So you send me an ACK. So you're just telling me, hey, I received your finish. But then the next step will be you sending the finish to let me know that you also finished sending. And and then I'll send the ACK that I received your thing. So it's an intelligent way in TCP so that both devices will close the connection after both have finished sending their information.
Okay. Perfect. Next question. How does eBGP prevent routing loops?
The AS path. So let's say I'm autonomous system 100, you're autonomous system 200, and I send, or let's say you have, I think the best way to explain the autonomous system. Let's say you're autonomous system 100, I'm autonomous system 200. You send me an update, and on that update, I see my AS path. So I know that this message originating from my autonomous system, so the message will be dropped. So loops are prevented via the AS path attribute.
Very good. Next question. What is TTL used for?
Time to live is a way to, it has several uses, but the main use is to prevent loops. So just like we said, AS path used to prevent loop in BGP. TTL is also a way of preventing loops. Let's say two routers have different views on, let's say router 1 and router 2. You receive a packet, you send it my direction, but I think it has to go your direction, so I send it back to you, and then you send it back to me again, and then I send it back to you. So that's a loop. And the TTL will resolve that loop, because when, let's say you receive the message with a TTL 5, you decrement the TTL by 1, so you make it 4, and you send it to me. When I receive it, although I'm sending it back to you, but I'll decrement it to 3. We're going to decrement it to 2, then I'll decrement it to 1. Once the TTL gets to 0, the message is dropped. So it's a way of resolving a loop, even though the routers don't have the correct routing information and they keep sending the message back and forth, creating a loop. The TTL will still intervene and resolve that loop, because packets will decrement the loop by 1 when they forward the message. So eventually the TTL field in the IP header will go to 0, which means the message has to be dropped.
Perfect. Next question. What is the purpose of the ARP protocol, the ARP protocol?
The ARP protocol is a way to obtain the MAC address. Let's say you have a PC connected to a switch to a router, and the PC wants to send traffic to the internet via that router. So you're creating the message at the application level, you're adding the TCP header, you're adding the IP header, but then the PC has its MAC address, but it doesn't know the MAC address of the router. Although it has the IP address of the router, but it doesn't have the MAC. So it's going to send an ARP message saying, hey, I want the MAC address of 10111. Then the router is going to respond. So ARP is a way of obtaining the MAC address if you have the IP address of the other device.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Very good. Next question. What is the role of RSVP TE signaling in MPLS TE networks?
So our RSVP is resource reservation. So usually I would say next generation networks are all based on MPLS, because MPLS it performs better than IP because it's layer 2.5. So the router doesn't have to inspect the IP header, which is layer 3. It can look at the MPLS header, which is layer 2.5. So it's faster forwarding. So MPLS came about, it has the ability to forward packets quickly, and based on that, people were able to do MPLS VPNs, which are more efficient and more scalable. And then also people started using MPLS for traffic engineering. And this is when we started using RSVP, resource reservation. So if you want to send traffic across a large ISP, let's say AT&T, or level 3, RSVP will signal the path. It will build the path automatically on the network, so the traffic will flow a certain way. And then if anything happens on that path, there's a feature called path reroute, where another path is created. So it's a way of reserving resources on the network to assure bandwidth, so the traffic can go on a certain route And then there's also additional things you could do for traffic engineering with RSVP, like link coloring, giving the link different colors, different weights, have them perform different functions. But primarily, it's a way to reserve resources on the network.
Okay. Very good. And just a few more questions. The next one is, what are the main differences between TCP and UDP?
TCP is connection oriented. Like we said earlier, you have to establish that connection first via the SYN, ACK, and the ACK. So a connection has to be established. UDP is, or maybe a better way of explaining this, TCP is reliable, UDP is not reliable. So TCP has a sequence number, acknowledgement fields. So TCP has fields that will help with reliability. If I send you information, that information is not received, you can use these fields in the TCP header to signal to me that the information wasn't received, so I will know and I'll send the information again. So and that's reliability in TCP. UDP doesn't have reliability; it's best effort. So if I send you information via UDP, you may receive it, you may not, and I won't know if it's received or not because there's no reliability. It's just best effort. So, and this makes TCP good for data. If I'm sending files, we want to have that reliability. We want to have that guarantee that the files were delivered. UDP, it doesn't have reliability, and for that reason, it's faster because we're reducing the overhead. So it's good for voice applications because if you and I are in a voice conversation, if you miss a letter, for example, from the context, you may know what the word was or what the sentence was. So usually voice is not very sensitive to losing information, but it's sensitive on delay. Like we've all been on international conversations where people couldn't communicate because there's so much delay. So for voice, we don't want a lot of reliability, but we want speed. And for that reason, TCP is reliable and good for data. UDP is unreliable and good for voice. That's the primary difference. Also, TCP is connection-oriented, and meaning you have to establish that connection. UDP is not connection-oriented, so the devices can start sending immediately. And the TCP header has a lot more fields and a lot more overhead than UDP.
Very good. Just two more questions. The next one is, what are some ways that you can add an element to a list in Python?
Adding an element to a list. I can answer that question if I'm able to open the book because I have the concept. For example, I know what a list is. Let's say recently I was looking at a program that creates lists for cars. Let's say BMW, Mercedes, then Honda, for example. So you create lists, and then you can go and retrieve information based on when the car was added to the list. Let's say you wanted to know how many cars were in the list and which cars were on the list maybe a month ago. You go put that date, and it will tell you how big the list was, and it will give you all the cars. This is an example in the book I'm going through. So I'm familiar with lists, but when it comes to Python, I may not be able to immediately speak from memory. But if you allow me to take a look at the book, I'll definitely give you the answer.
Yeah, sure. That's no worries at all. This is just to help me kind of gauge your immediate recollection of Python syntax. This just helps me to help kind of figure out which roles would be best suitable for you. All right, cool. So that's basically all the questions that I'm going to have for you. So what I'll do is I'll take a look at kind of the landscape of the roles that we have right now. I have one in mind that I think might be the best fit for you right now. We do have a role, and I'll send you the job description for your review, and just let me know if that's something you're interested in. But the role is going to be in Sunnyvale. The position is a senior network engineer, enterprise networks position, right? So I know that you have more of a large-scale backbone experience. The hurdle that we have to overcome is the programming piece. Of all the roles that I have, this one.
I think everything at Google will be large scale, even the enterprise network.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. And yeah, that was my next point. Our enterprise networks rivals a lot of the ISPs out there, so it's pretty large scale as well. However, they're open to candidates who have may not have the programming piece, but have done some systems or network design work. Okay,
perfect,
so I think this will be probably more up your alley, and I'll send you the job description just so that we cover our bases and verify with you that that's something you're interested in. If you're interested in this, I'm perfectly happy to go ahead and move forward to the next stage in the process. I feel like your background is a great fit for this role. So with that, I'm
interested.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll send you the job description and just respond back with a yes or no. If you say yes, I'll send you the prep material for that position, and you can just respond back with some of the times and dates you might be available for the next round interview, which is going to which will be a technical phone interview. It'll be about 45 minutes in length. It'll be probably a level of complexity higher than this conversation here. Of course, you'll be speaking with an engineer, but it'll cover layers 2 through 4, right? Very kind of similar to the types of questions that I asked. So your basic routing and switching protocols, as well as TCP. You'll be tested on those things. If all goes well in the second phase, the third and final stage is going to be an on-site interview. You'll meet with 5 of our network engineers. You'll have 2 networking interviews, 2 system design interviews, and 1 soft skill interview. And again, we'll send you plenty of prep material when we get to that bridge, okay? As far as the timeline goes, I think I've kind of talked about it already, but I've seen it as quickly as 6 weeks. I've seen it also take several months. It's largely up to you as well. We try to give candidates 2 weeks in between each interview, ideally. If you need an additional week to prepare, just let me know. We can accommodate an additional week. Yeah, so that's basically the interview process in a nutshell. Do you have any questions about that or anything in general?
It's a pretty straightforward process. Yeah, I'm clear on the process.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and send you that job description before the end of the day. If it's copacetic with you, I'll send you the prep material as I mentioned, and then we can work on scheduling your next interview. Okay?
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Ehab. And if you need to get in touch with me for any reason, the best way to reach me is email, okay?
Perfect. I will.
All right. Have a great day, and stay away from the roads.
Thank you much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.